Nigeria's elections, and of course, Nigerians are getting ready to go to the polls to choose who they want to be president for the next 4 years. The vote is just hours and will be happening this weekend. Of course, some individuals who happen to be Nigerians here in Ghana are having some challenges with the cash situation, the new notes, which is impacting them in that country. We'll talk about it very shortly, but for now we know that a decent turnout is expected, with more than 88% of voting cards having been collected by those registered to cast their ballots. And it looks set to be a close race between the two main contenders. Of course, we're joined by Zoom now by Kayla. Kayla is with Channels TV. She'll be giving us some updates on the Nigerian elections. But first, let's hear from some Ghanaians who are here, some Nigerians who are actually in Ghana, raising concerns about the new notes and how it's impacting their inability to move into the country for the elections.
In just a few days, Nigerians will have to go to the polls and elect a new president that would take after Buhari, who has been in power for nearly 8 years. I am speaking to some of the Nigerians in Ghana and taking the assessment of the Buhari administration, and again, what they make of the elections. What are the key banners that they are looking out for? I have with me Casey here. Casey, so I mean, we've had a little bit of a conversation, but I'm surprised that I'm in the Nigerian community and I find a lot of you around. Is it that you are not interested in elections, nobody's going back?
No, of course we are, but you know, the recent policy the current APC government actually put in place is going to affect people because the scarcity of the redesigned notes, and it's going to make, because most of the poor masses traveling are going to need cash, because it's what's happening in Nigeria now is that people are buying naira with naira. To get the new notes, you actually have to suffer.
Casey, I'll come back to you and ask you what you make of the Buhari administration. I've heard you pass a little bit comment on that here. I have Austin. Austin, so why are there so many Nigerians still around?
Actually, nobody's against voting or not voting. Okay. Every average citizen is very much happy to vote. But right now, the situation of the economy is very, very devastating. In the sense that at the time of the election, they brought up an issue or idea of redesigning our currency notes. Many people will not travel because there is no naira and there is no fuel.
Casey, Buhari has been in power nearly 8 years. What do you make of his administration?
You know, it's funny because, you know, as at 2015 when he was coming, he came with the change mantra, you know, coming to fight corruption and, you know, coming to lift our economy. But the crazy thing is that things have gone so bad. They've gone from bad to worse, you know, and I'm sure every Nigerian is tired at this point. He's tired.
Changing government, or you want APC to still be in power?
Boss, for me, APC government is a disaster. I say it and I'll continue to say it. These people came with bogus promises. They promised Nigerians heaven and earth. And along the line, the case was the reverse. So instantly, if even God can do it today, we want change in government.
What are the key things the next president must have or candidate must have for which you'll be voting for him or her?
Number one, APC, we have tested APC. It's like we have APC, they are like wives for years. And they come up with disguising behaviors. So in terms of APC, let me use the candidates as an example. It won't work like that.
And to me, I believe consistency is one of the key things we should look forward to in a president. So that's why my own candidate is actually Omoyele Sowore from African Action Congress, AAC. He's been consistent. He's been speaking truth to power, irrespective of who is in, you know, who is in the picture.
He says P2B is not a candidate to be considered in this election.
Okay. Well, for me particularly, I repeat myself, Obi is my candidate.
So there's still 18 candidates in the elections that will be held on Saturday, 25th February 2023. Well, what I don't know is who exactly is going to win the elections. But one thing I'm sure is that it's going to be a difficult task, whoever takes after Buhari. For Joy News, Michael Ashali.
Let's bring in Kayla now. And Kayla, you've just heard from some Nigerians, of course, here in Ghana, and how the economic situation there in your country is impacting them. But what's the latest even on the elections, even before we comment on that?
Hello, good evening. Well, those 18 candidates just signed a peace accord. That just happened maybe 5 minutes ago. Usually in Nigeria's elections, they try to make sure that all the candidates sign peace accords, you know, that promising that your supporters will not be violent. You would accept the results of the election. It will be conducted peacefully. We will not have a situation where people are scared to cast their vote because of the violence that is being perpetrated by your supporters. You know, so peace accord has just been signed right now. President Muhammadu Buhari was at that event they held right here in Abuja. We also saw Thabo Mbeki. Thabo Mbeki was actually a guest as well, because he's an election observer for the Nigerian elections as well. So yes, that's the update that we have. 24 hours to the elections, then the campaigning will end. In fact, for some of the major political parties, we already stay hearing from them, oh, this is the grand finale, like the All Progressives Congress had a grand finale yesterday. The PDP had their grand finale a few days ago. You know, so we're seeing a lot of people getting ready. It's D-Day, okay? So it's Saturday. It's Saturday. And, you know, everyone is trying to get on board. INEC has already started distributing some of those materials to parts of the country. A lot of the sensitive material is already been sent, you know, but we're getting updates from our correspondents here at Channels Television from across the country saying, oh, this is what's happening over here. We have a lot of these election materials ready for Saturday, you know. So we're getting into the thick of things, so to speak.
And you have, for instance, the story that we just brought to you, some Nigerians here in Ghana, and I'm sure the situation is for most of those who are within the neighboring West Africa region. Are these issues also coming up strongly in your country?
Well, the economic situation, of course, you know, it's a mixture of a lot of things. A lot of things have happened in the last 5 years. We're hit by a pandemic that almost crippled almost every economy around the world, especially those of us here in Africa. And then we've seen economic downturns follow that. We've seen recoveries trying to follow that. So a lot of things have happened in the last 5 years. When it comes to policies, I was listening to a few other people speaking, you know, that the redesign of the Naira is affecting why they're not coming back to the country to cast their votes. Pretty disappointing to hear that. However, you know, the redesign of the Naira was done for a reason. At the time, before the redesign of the Naira, we actually saw a situation where the Naira was almost hitting 1,000 to the dollar. But with the scarcity of cash and with a lot of the indices that have come into play, the Naira is around 400 and something to the dollar. And this change is just between 2-3 months. You know, the redesign of the Naira was also done to curb criminality, because we had a situation where people were being kidnapped and we couldn't trace where the ransoms were being paid. And that's because people were paying in cash. The kidnappers would insist that you pay in cash. We had a culture where people were hoarding money in houses. People would build houses just to hoard money. And this had been going on for so long. The CBN took their time to explain the fact that the money in circulation, or the money in people's houses, is more than the money in circulation and more than the money that they had in the bank itself.
Right.
So it was important for us to redesign this Naira so that everyone who's hoarding money would have no choice but to bring the money out. Now, what's happened, unfortunately, with that is the fact that the redesign of the Naira has come up to the point where we've realized that banks don't have the infrastructure, the necessary infrastructure, to carry out online transactions on a large scale. So we've had bank apps crashing since this happened. And what that has done to many Nigerians is put them in a tight situation. I have money in my bank, I don't have cash, but I also can't do transactions because the online infrastructure is poor. So that's where this conundrum is coming right now. And unfortunately, this is coming up just a few days to the election. How it will impact the elections, we do not know yet. We're watching to see what happens.
And then there's the issue about security as well. How are the agencies handling that?
But the police has been briefing for the past few days, redeployments. Well, just a week to the elections, commissioners of police were deployed across the country, new ones across the country. And the reason why this is done is so that we can have fresh eyes, fresh eyes, but working with the hands that are on ground as well. So we've had deployments across the country. The police said that they're ready. The army said they're ready. In fact, I was listening to the National Security Advisor just yesterday, Mr. Babagana Mongono, and he was saying anyone who's trying to foment trouble will get into a lot of trouble, because this particular election is a very important election to the Nigerian people, and the place must be secure. So they're promising that they're going to be on ground. In fact, they've even given out numbers. If you're in a neighborhood and some people are fomenting trouble where you are, you can actually call, you make an SOS or something, just so that the military or the police or whoever it is that can listen to your complaints actually comes and solves that problem immediately. So we're seeing all of that happening. There's a lot of work that is going into this election. Remember, we're talking about, I'm trying to get the exact number, 109 senatorial districts, 360 constituencies. And that's going to be happening on Saturday. So there's a lot of places to cover. So it's a very big election, and everything has to be done to ensure that this election is safe. We have over 93 million voters in this election.
And in the run-up to the main election, of course, we've heard about the issue relating to the PVCs. Has that issue been addressed?
When you say the issue relating to the PVCs, are you talking about unavailability or
some individuals were complaining that they could not get access to their cards. There's also a case where some are not even going in for the cards as well. So, yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of because there's a lot of issues with PVCs. There's the fact that many people are not able to register. There's also the fact that some people who registered probably don't know where their polling units are going to be. There's a lot of issues around the PVCs. However, we do have a number of registered voters right now. At least 93.4 million people have been registered. Now, of course, we're even seeing videos of some PVCs that have been stuck up somewhere, PVCs that have been thrown away. All of these issues coming up, yes. However, the margin of error between those who have not had access to their PVCs and those who already have access and those who are going to take part in the election is not enough for us to draw a conclusion that Nigerians have not been given the chance to vote fairly in this election. But all the issues with PVCs, is something that the Electoral Commission has to really look into, especially for this election. This particular election has the highest number of young Nigerians partaking in the process ever. And this is a technical election. There's a lot of technology. There's the BVAS that's been adopted. There's the fact that you can do electronic transfer of results immediately from the collation centers. These are very important things. And an election this crucial that has so many young people being a part of it is one that these sorts of mistakes, unfortunately, should not be happening. But we're seeing that happen, unfortunately. However, the elections will still be holding on February the 25th. And I'm sure these issues with permanent voter cards will be sorted out, should be sorted out soonest by the regulatory authority.
And for the president himself, what assurance are we getting from him?
Well, President Muhammadu Buhari basically is winding down, so to speak. He attended the peace accord today. He's in recent times, he's all smiles. It seems, when you're almost done, you're just waiting for the time to be done. So it's one of those situations, but he has been campaigning for the candidate of his party. Many people had accused the president of not giving his party flag bearer, as Ahmed Tinubu, the kind of support that was needed. But he has been attending rallies, raising the man's hand. In Nigeria, when you endorse a candidate, you hold his hand and raise it up. So President Muhammadu Buhari has been doing that. So he's been going on all of these campaigns. The campaigns, they've done the grand finale, of course, now in Lagos. So the campaigning for the All Progressives Congress has ended. However, at least today, the president was at the signing of the peace accord. And of course, sending messages across the country, videos, even private videos, sending it everywhere, telling people to make sure that they come and exercise their right to vote, but at the same time also marketing his party's candidates, but basically telling people that they should come out en masse and vote in this very crucial election.
And for those who've not been following Nigerian politics or even the elections, over 90 million voters. How long are we expecting that this exercise will travel through?
That has always been the question about Nigeria's elections, because we're so many. Well, but there's so many polling units as well. Remember, it's not as though we have all these numbers of people voting and then they are restricted to small polling units. No, we have polling units everywhere. There are polling units per streets in many parts of the country, even. Like it's going to be a lot of work. And it takes about 3 to 5 days for results to finally be announced and things like that. It takes about 3 to 5 days typically, but we have more voters in this election than we had in previous elections. But I think it's going to take a maximum of a week for us to be done with the counting and the announcing and all of that. But the election is one day, the 25th. The presidential election is the 25th, and then the presidential and federal assembly for the 25th, and then the governorship and state assemblies will be holding on the 11th of March. So we have those 2 sets of elections. We're going to get over with the presidential and the National Assembly this Saturday.
Anyway, a long way to go, but Kayla, thank you for joining us. I'm grateful.
Thank you.